Hi, girls and boys. Today we're going to read a book called Down the Road. It was written by Alice Schertle. She's the author. She wrote the words. It was illustrated by E.B. Lewis. He drew the pictures. He's the illustrator. So I'm looking at the front cover, and I see a girl, and she had a basket of eggs, and it looks like some fell. That's all I know about the book so far. Let's read to find out more. Down the Road by Alice Schertle. Illustrated by E.B. Lewis. Hedy lived in a little gray house with a big stone chimney and a screen door that squeaked in a friendly way for comings and goings. In back of the house was a tin-roof shed where Papa mended other people's trucks and tractors and cars that weren't running anymore. In front of the house was a dusty road that ran through a field, up over a hill, and out of sight. Sometimes Hedy walked with Mama down the dusty road. Sometimes she walked with Papa, but Hedy had never, ever been allowed down the dusty road all by herself. One afternoon, Mama said, "Mr. Birdie's speckled hens are laying. Wouldn't fresh eggs be nice for tomorrow's breakfast?" She sighed and shook her head. "I just don't have time to walk to Mr. Birdie's. It's too bad." "Scrambled eggs for breakfast," said Papa. "If only I had the time, I'd go myself." "I can do it," said Hedy. "I'm big enough to go to Mr. Birdie's all by myself." "Well," said Mama. "Look at this big girl," said Papa. "Hedy can do it, Mama. Absolutely." Papa gave Hedy a handful of coins and a wicker basket. 1 dozen eggs, he told her. 12 big beauties, no cracks. "Be sure to say thank you to Mr. Birdie," said Mama. "Come straight home," said Papa. "Don't dilly-dally," said Mama. Squeak bang went the screen door, and Hedy was on her way. She marched straight down the dusty road, swinging the basket and jingling the coins in her pocket. "This is what it's like to be grown up," she thought. "You have money in your pocket, and you can go down the road all by yourself." She listened to her shoes going thump, 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 and she made up some walking words to say as she went along. "Down the road, 1 and 2, eggs for breakfast, how-de-do. Eggs for breakfast, clickety-clack, eggs for breakfast, not a crack." I heard some rhyming words. 2, do, clack, crack. Bump went the basket against Hedy's knee. Bump, bump. "When this basket is full of eggs," thought Hedy, "I'll walk my smoothest so they won't roll around and break." She practiced walking as if she were skimming across a frozen pond on ice skates. Pretty soon her walk was so smooth that she balanced the wicker basket on her head and climbed all the way to the top of the hill before it fell off. With the basket over her arm, Hedy raced down the other side, her pigtails flying. She seems to be enjoying this walk of hers. Where is she going? To Mr. Birdie's house. Why? She's going to get eggs. Does anybody know how many? 1 dozen. That's 12. She felt inside her pocket to make sure the coins were still there. Then she continued down the road, through a meadow, across a stream, past a house or two, down a street, around a corner, up some steps, and into the cool shadows of Mr. Birdie's Emporium and Dry Goods store. Oh, so this little girl went on a walk all the way by herself to the store. That's like Max and Bunny Cakes. So our settings so far have been the house, and now the store, and then she was outside for a while too, wasn't she? "Well now," said Mr. Birdie, "here's Hedy, all by herself." "Good day, Mr. Birdie," said Hedy, just as Mama would have said. "I'd like 1 dozen eggs, please." She slapped the coins down on the counter, just as Papa would have done. 12 big beauties, no cracks. While Mr. Birdie put up 12 big brown eggs into the wicker basket, Hedy walked slowly down a cluttered aisle, looking closely at cans and cartons and bolts of fabric, just as if she might decide to buy something else. Before she left, she remembered to say, "Thank you, Mr. Birdie." Those are polite words. I'm glad that she said those. Around the corner went Hedy, down the street, past a house or two, doing her smooth walk and holding the basket carefully so it wouldn't bump against her knees. When she came to the stream, she stopped with one foot on a fallen log. "What if it wobbles?" thought Hedy. "What if this log wobbles me off and I drop the eggs?" She stepped down into the cold water and splashed across the stream, straight across to the other side. No use taking a chance, thought Hedy. Taking a chance on what? What chance did she not want to take? So here's Hedy, our main character, crossing that stream, being so careful she doesn't want to break any eggs. Squish, squish went Hedy's wet shoes on the dusty road. Squish, 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 and Hedy said her walking words. Down the road, 1 and 2, eggs for breakfast, howdy do. Hedy was so busy doing her smooth walk and saying her walking words and admiring the eggs in the basket that she didn't see a rock sticking up in the middle of the road. She walked along, getting closer to the rock with every step. Eggs for breakfast, clickety-clack. Eggs for breakfast, not a... Ouch! Hedy's toe hit the rock and she stumbled forward. She had to hop and jump to keep from falling. Inside the basket, the eggs rattled together with a little clinky sound. "Oh, no," said Hedy. What do you think she's scared about? I think she's worried about something. She knelt down on the road and took the eggs out of the basket. Scarcely breathing, she examined every one. "Not a crack," she said with a sigh, and she wiped each egg off on her shirt and put them all back inside. Phew, that was close. Then she was on her way again, this time keeping a sharp eye out for obstacles on the road. The word obstacle means something in the way. The rock was an obstacle because it was in the way of walking smoothly. Obstacle. It seemed like a very long road. The sun was hot, and by the time she reached the meadow, Hedy was tired. But there, in the middle of the meadow, was a big, wild apple tree full of bright red apples, sweet, juicy, crackly, crisp apples. Let's make a prediction. She's been outside for a long time. Our setting has been outside for a really long time. And they just told us the sun was hot, and that by the time she reaches this meadow, she's feeling tired. And then she sees this apple tree. What do you think she's going to want to do? Well, let's find out. Papa's favorites. Mama's too. Hedy herself was very fond of apples. Just 3, thought Hedy, and then I'll go straight home. She made her way through the weeds, snagging foxtails in her socks and holding the egg basket carefully in front of her. Hedy picked an apple for Mama. She picked an apple for herself. Now for a big, red, Papa-sized apple. She reached up, and the wicker basket tipped just a little bit. She reached higher, higher, and the basket tipped more, and then a little more. What do you think's going to happen? Splat! Hedy wanted to cry. She wanted to hide. She wanted to climb up into the apple tree and never, ever come down. She didn't want to go home and tell Papa and Mama that there would be no eggs for breakfast. So we're going to look at this illustration and think about the words that we just had. How is Hedy feeling? I think she's sad. Look at her expression on her face. Up she climbed, right up into the old apple tree, as high as she could go. And there she sat, just thinking and feeling sad and not wanting to go home. After a long time, Hedy saw something moving way down the dusty road. It was Papa. Hedy made herself as small as she could. Papa, whose sharp eyes never missed a thing, came striding through the tall meadow grass. "So," he said, "this is where I find you. Is this how you bring eggs home for breakfast?" "I was picking apples for us," said Hedy with a sob. "I broke the eggs, Papa, every single one." Papa nudged the basket with the toe of his boot. "I see," he said, and you climbed up into the tree to think it over. Suddenly his face wrinkled into a smile. "There's no finer place than an apple tree to think things over." And Papa climbed up beside her. Is her papa mad at her? No. By the time Mama came through the meadow grass, there was a pile of apple cores underneath the tree. Hedy and Papa had chins sticky with apple juice. Mama nudged the basket with the toe of her shoes. "Just look at this. I'm waiting for 12 beautiful eggs, and what do I find? Shells." "I'm sorry, Mama," said Hedy. "I dropped the eggs. I was trying to pick some apples." "Fine, sweet apples," said Papa. Mama stared up into the tree. "Well, well," she said, "just look at the 2 big birds in the apple tree." "Do you see any big birds in an apple tree?" "What is Mama talking about?" "She's talking about Papa and Hedy." Papa whistled like a magpie. "Tweet, tweet, tweet," went Hedy. Pretty soon there were 3 big birds in the apple tree. 1, 2, 3. Are they real birds? No. Mama put her arm around Hedy. "I'd almost forgotten how lovely the world looks from a tree," Mama said. "Everyone should spend some time in an apple tree," Papa agreed. "Absolutely." Is her Mama upset at her anymore? No. When they walked back home along the dusty road, they had not one egg among them, but Mama's skirt and Papa's pockets and Hedy's basket were full of sweet red apples. And the next morning, there was apple pie for breakfast. I like the way that they decided to take something that had happened and look for the best in it. They might not have been able to have scrambled eggs for breakfast, so they decided not to let it ruin their day, not to get too upset, and instead they made apple pie for breakfast. I like apple pie. Do you? Thank you for reading this book with me. Who were the main characters? Hedy was the main character. There were 2 other characters in here that we saw a lot of, Mama and Papa. What was the setting for most of the book?